2, we'll call the meeting of the Whitman Middle School Building Committee to order. Just to remind everyone, as all meetings is being recorded for future use, both video and audio. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Included in the packets were the minute meetings from June 27th. I would entertain a motion if everyone's had a chance to...
Motion to approve.
Over. And a second? Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just one correction. Crystal was absent. She wasn't both absent and present, so I crossed her name off in the members present.
Okay, and if you could send Jenna a quick note to amend that.
Yep.
So we have a motion to amend the minutes to reflect that Crystal wasn't here. She's listed twice. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. So now we have a motion and a second. All in favor of amending the minutes to read Crystal not being here and not being listed present? All, Justin, will you, yes?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so unanimous. And now entertain the motion. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as amended. I would take that. Is there a motion?
Oh, so moved.
Second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Okay. And abstaining, Crystal?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, okay. So unanimous with the exception of Crystal abstention. All right, that's done. OPM report. Mr. Bates, for the final time. Or Mr. Knott?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna turn this over to Joe Knott. He's going to talk a little bit about the transition plan. I think most of you know that I'm moving on to a different company, so I'm gonna let Joe do the.
Before Mr. Naughton goes, and hopefully the committee can indulge, and at least on behalf of myself and hopefully the committee, John, we do want to thank you for everything that you did. You jumped in with both sleeves up at times, creating a website, going above and beyond to try and satisfy us, and sometimes we could be a little crazy, speaking for me. Okay. As far as that goes, but just to want to offer you the sincerest thanks and the best wishes for everything.
I appreciate that. Can I just take a quick second to just thank the committee? It's really been a pleasure, and I will look forward to following this project not as your OPM, but as I guess we'll call it a neighbor of the Kingston residents. I think I told you when I did this too. I work in this business to build schools, so I'm looking forward to seeing this one get built. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Joe Knott, and I'm Managing Director of Colliers Project Leaders. And I just wanted to, we're sending around a resume. We very much are disappointed that John has decided to move on, but we respect that, and we appreciate the work that he's provided to Colliers, and we're happy to hear that you've been happy with the work that he's done for you. So again, it's bittersweet. We're happy for him. I think it's a great opportunity. We're disappointed, but we're going to step in with resources that we think will continue to move the project forward. If you have any questions about the person we're recommending in the leadership position, please ask me tonight or as we move forward. But the person I'd like to introduce to the group tonight is Mike Carroll. We're proposing that he step in a leadership role. We're going to ask him to get involved with the project anyway, because he's the person that I've known for 10 years, and he's done probably, 9 different MSBA projects, so more than qualified. We think he'll be a great leader on the team, and the resumes have worked their way around. I'm going to ask Mike to come up here and say a few words about his background, experience, and how we will continue to move forward with you unimpeded and with great acceleration and excitement about the project. Mike, do you want to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Joe. As Joe mentioned, I've been working with him personally
It's actually, I think about 13 years here. Time flies as you're having fun. But I'm fairly new to the Colliers team here, but I'm a very experienced OPM. Done a lot of projects throughout the years, including MSBA projects. Many middle schools, actually coming off of Braintree East Middle School, completed that project. Coming off Braintree South Middle School, that project's actually in the process of being finished right now. That was a kind of a unique circumstance for me because as I was building the school, my daughter was going to the school, and it was pretty much in my neighborhood. So there was a lot of interaction there, a lot of back and forth with the neighbors, and people wondering what's going on, things of that nature. Also working in Concord on a middle school project, currently working in Haverhill on a middle school project, but also working on the schools. Been working with John. He was with me a little bit in Haverhill and also very extensively in Webster. So I've been working with him, and we've been working kind of seamlessly on that project for the last few months. So like Joe mentioned, as we were moving to the next phase here, there was a discussion internally that maybe I would come on to supplement John, but at this point we're accelerating that a little bit so that I can come on a little bit sooner than maybe we were going to propose. But I'm really excited about this project. I actually grew up in Abington. Thanksgiving Day ride was Whitman Hanson, so know the area well, and really looking forward to working with you. I'd really like to know if you have any questions at all, any concerns. I'd be happy to.
No ties to Natick though, right?
No ties to Natick, no.
And he doesn't forget a thing. All right, anything? And if any concerns, we'll leave Mike's contact information with you tonight. If you have any concerns, if anything comes to mind at any point, just let us know. We'll address them.
I don't think anyone on the committee will be shy as far as that goes. We definitely won't be shy in saying what's on our minds and whatnot. As we had spoken of, and I might be jumping the gun a little bit for a public relations subcommittee report, but there are some groups that are formed in town, and we want to make sure that through you folks and AI3, that they have any resources that are publicly available to them, whether it's the videos, the flyers, etc., so that there are people expressing their opinion in town.
Absolutely.
So we just want to make sure that's something I think is very important to us. Any questions? Great. Thank you, Joe. Pleasure to see you again.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
So I think with that, I am going to turn it over to John to do the overall OPM review that you're typically used to. Obviously, I'll be working with him on that going forward and then taking that over.
Thank you.
So we had talked at some length at our last building committee meeting, which was just 2 weeks ago, I believe, about the budget and schedule. I told you that we are on budget, we're on schedule, and I'm here to tell you 2 weeks later that we continue to be under budget and on schedule. So if you look to the top right corner of the OPM report, you see that our total budget for the feasibility phase of the project is $850,000, and our total contract is under that, $813,000. And we don't see any future encumbrances coming during the space of the project. But that being the case, we expect to be under budget for the duration of this phase. So I believe that's good news. We've been careful and efficient with our time and with the town's money. So with that, any questions about the budget? I do want to note that that $813,000 does not yet include the $16,000+ for A.M. Fogarty. We talked at the last committee meeting about bringing A.M. Fogarty cost estimating on board to do with schematic design cost estimates. So that will be in addition to the $813,000, but it still falls within our budget. And just to go a little further, we now are under contract. Colliers is with A.M. Fogarty cost estimating. That's a direct sub-consultant to Colliers, as I talked about in the previous meetings.
Quick question. The $40,000 that we're approving today in invoices, is that those monies have been encumbered into those?
Everything is within what's contracted today.
Just want to make clear on that.
So what I could do right now is quickly jump to the last page of your OPM report. And I'd like to just touch quickly on schedule. I expect the after we will probably talk about schedule as part of the report too. I don't want you folks to have to read this Gantt chart, so I just want to tell you some highlights. So The cost estimates, the schematic design cost estimate package drawings and specifications is now out to both of our cost estimators for review. So they're working hard now on their cost estimate. Those are going to be due back to us on the 3rd, I believe, of August. And then we're going to have the following week a reconciliation meeting, and we talked about that in previous meetings, reconciliations with both our cost estimators, AI3s, and the owners come together. We have a multi-hour meeting where we go line by line. We make sure that both estimators have a good understanding of the scope of the project, and they sort of refine their numbers for the process of that meeting. And then they revise their estimates based on what we went through during that day. Then we get revised estimates. That revised estimate becomes the basis for the project scope and budget agreement with the MSBA. We talked about that previously. You might recall this form that I have up on the screen here. That's the form 3011. So the cost estimate results get inputted into this very complicated MSBA form. And then your effective reimbursement is calculated as a result. So that's something that we, the OPM, are going to be working directly with the OPM, the MSBA, I should say, with over the next couple of months. And as far as schedules, high level, again, the submission date for the deliverable, the schematic design deliverable, is August 31st. So we're still on track for that. And then the MSBA board meeting is October 25th. Now, I was contacted by the MSBA about October 25th in that board meeting. They're expecting a very heavy volume of submissions that day. So they have requested that the committee consider potentially feeding the MSBA some elements of the schematic design package in advance to sort of assist in their review process so they don't get them all at once. And I think we can talk about that a little more when AI3 presents, but there are some elements of that schematic design package we think could be easily broken out and submitted to the MSBA in advance of that August 31st deadline. So we'll talk about that a little more, but I just want to kind of broach that topic right now. We would have to meet on August, and I think we're talking about the 15th at this point, to meet in front of you folks to vote to approve submission to the MSBA, the materials that we're talking about now, but I think we'll get into that a little more too. That's the high-level overview of the schedule over the next couple of months.
Any questions, Mr. Bates? I would think that, and I'd already scribbled down for the next meeting date, possibly on the 15th. So if you're going to have the cost estimates in, and that helps with your timeline, obviously whatever we can do to assist MSBA, we want to be able to do. Whatever we can do to make life easier for them. You know, at the same time, you know, hey, these guys are great. Can you give them a couple points more? Yeah, that's what they do.
Could hurt. So with that, I did intend to be brief. I think that concludes my final OPM report for the Whitman Middle School project. Unless there's anything else, I can turn it over to AI3.
Well, do you want to go right into the Public Relations Subcommittee?
We could.
Why don't we go right into that? Between you, Elisa, and Mr. Galvin's not here, I'm here, Josh is here, that's here. And I can start. We did meet this morning, and you know, we did have discussion about the videos. We have 2 videos that are produced now that Colliers has done, 1 video that Mr. Galvin has done. And we've come to the conclusion that the most time-effective and best way of producing the videos is to have AI3, and perhaps in conjunction with Colliers, come up with the narrative. John Galvin has graciously agreed to do the video editing. Him and Brandon were down at the middle school. You took, I don't know if it's an hour or so of different videos, condensing, I think we spoke about 5 or 6 total videos, condensing them into a 60 to 90 second slot, so that way there we can have the narration. Rich Pullican has been nice enough to volunteer as our narrator. John's trying to schedule some time with WHCA to get in with their sound booths so that you'll be able to read off the narrative. And obviously your name is well known throughout the town from your many years at the middle school with various sports activities. So that way there we can start publishing those on Facebook. And I do see some folks here that are within the YES group. We have to make the videos and our materials available to everybody. As of right now, I only know a few folks. But want you to know that our resources are available to you. Whatever we produce, we have to just show the fact. You as a committee, you do what you want. You can have your vote yes, signs, etc. We can't do that ourselves as a committee. But any resources, etc., they're going to be factual. They'll be for the public, and you're most certainly the public. We have talked a little bit of how we're going to be able to have those with links. We're going to try a couple of different things. One is an embedded link. Mr. Galvin is agreeing to host the videos, or if we want YouTube, I guess part of the detriment with YouTube is they will have perhaps some commercials, and then it goes right to the next, where we were also hoping to be able to have at the very end a very large QR code, so that if people were interested or they're watching on their phones, they can hit their QR code, and it will take them to the project website. And hopefully that WMSproject.org website will be a wonderful container of anything and everything people could want to be able to do research and look at, so that they can be totally informed. I think that's our game plan for now. I don't know that there's much else. If I missed something, please tell me. And anyone have anything to add? Alyssa? Anybody?
Just covered it.
Okay, cool. All right. That's our PR update. Any questions, by the way? All right. Next on the agenda is Mass Save Engineering Services. We had spoken about this a few meetings back, and we had agreed to take the next step to enter into it. These are engineering services that, and perhaps you may want to explain it a little bit greater detail than myself.
We need to hire an engineer to do energy modeling as part of our effort to go low UI/net zero. So it's National Grid is asking that you share some of those costs, that the sum, and then the town pays for the remainder, and to support that engineering effort. So the total for the district/town would be $87.50, and Grid allows you to take that amount out of your incentive at the very end of the project. So that is not a check that you would have to come up with now. So that's something that
We don't have to pay any money. The proposed engineering cost is $17,500, with our portion only being the $87.50. The balance being absorbed by Mass Save. So it's a pretty good deal. What I would be asking for, they have asked me to sign this, and I'm just asking for a motion and a second and the committee's approval for me to sign this.
I move that we allow you to sign this cost-saving document.
Okay, there's a motion, a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? You're familiar with this, I'm hoping.
Enough, yeah.
Yeah, so pretty standard from what I could gather.
Yeah.
The way they do things. All right, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, folks. I will sign this and get this back to them tomorrow. Designer report, AI3.
which side I should stand, but as long as you guys can hear me. Great. So,
If you're on the thing,
perfect. So tonight we have some exciting design development imagery to share. John provided us with a John already provided a pretty thorough, easy to digest overview of the schedule. Like you mentioned, we on Thursday submitted documents to both sets of cost estimators, so they're busily working away at those. And as you recall, this is sort of the overview of all of the elements that will be involved in the schematic design submission that we're working towards for that August 31st deadline. Ultimately, from our perspective, we feel as though the project is in a really great place. And so as a committee, as we move towards that August 15th meeting date that John mentioned, we believe that the committee should feel pretty confident in being able to approve that submission. And a big chunk of that is really this cost estimating set that was sent out on Thursday. And some of these items, the exterior development, will be addressing that tonight, giving an update. And a lot of the other things that go into the schematic design report are items from the building committee meetings that have that we're really just summarizing in that report. So with the previous two phases, those were very report heavy. In this phase, it's a much smaller report, which just summarizes a lot of the determinations that this committee has made. So the construction delivery method or the proprietary specifications. And so the drawing set that we provided for your review is really the bulk of that schematic design submission. And so what that entails is on Thursday, we put together a project manual for the cost estimator. So that's the beginning of the specifications for the project. That is going to grow in depth and detail during the next phases of the project. But that is available as an initial summary of materials, requirements for the project. And so that's just a written document that's available for your review. We've also put together the cost estimating drawings. That would include the architectural set, the landscape drawings, and the civil drawings. So those have developed a lot. You'll recognize the building footprint and all of the sort of colored plans that we presented in these meeting settings are now starting to be hashed out in actual construction documents. So that's available for review. And then additionally, at this stage, we don't have engineering drawings, but we have narratives. So they'll describe all of the expectations for the building systems in a narrative form. And all of those items have been made available to this building committee. So we just ask, I think either through your Google Drive or through a link that was sent, those will be available and you can review just to have that comfort level for when we meet next to really approve the submission moving forward. Tonight we were also looking to have a vote to approve the proprietary specifications. So when we met 2 months ago, we introduced what proprietary specifications are. And so tonight, after the district returned and internally discussed what would be considered proprietary for the district, they came back with the Protégé GX system would be proprietary. That is access control. So all of the schools within the district currently are using this access control system. It would, of course, make a lot of sense for the new building to also be integrated with this access control system. And then the phone system was also deemed proprietary. That's going to fall into the technology budget bucket. So it's not necessarily a part of this project budget, but that is also something that the district intends to carry as proprietary in the project moving forward. So what we're looking for tonight is for the committee to vote that this proprietary list of items for the new Whitman Middle School building is accepted and approved as presented. So that's what we're looking for.
all right, so I would be seeking the motion to identify the Protégé GX access control, the card system, and the Avaya IP Office 11 phone system to being identified as proprietary within our project. Should I be seeking that? So Mr. Farrow with the motion?
Second?
Okay, Kathleen with the second. Any discussion or questions?
I just have one question. So when we look at the Avaya IP Office 11, and it says that it will be in the district technology scope, right now what it looks like at the middle school is that because the brains of the system are held here, and everything is a part of it, are we saying that if there are materials needed to continue that at the new middle school, that'll be outside the scope of this project and fall on the district, i.e. phones, i.e. any wiring or anything like that?
That is correct.
So, just to clarify that
Yeah.
a little bit more. The project, the total project budget includes the construction costs as part of the hard costs, then the soft costs, which include technology and furniture and equipment. So the phones, the switches, some of the hardware, the Promethean boards, or some of the display technology, that will fall into the technology budget, still as part of the project, but as part of the technology budget.
Thank you.
And any data or wiring
Yeah, sure.
as part of the building will be included in anticipation of that.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
And we'll also this list will be reconfirmed in later phases of the project, and it may be extended as we get more into materials and selections for the project.
And what we're saying is that they're going to follow the same protocols as the rest of the district right now. I mean, I couldn't imagine using a different key access system in one building than the others, or even the phone system
Right.
in one building than the others.
Yeah, my question was only for clarification, because I wasn't sure if that meant outside the scope of this whole project, and it falls to the LEA budget
Okay.
to supplement the new.
Now, it's part of FF&E, right?
Yeah, no,
Part of technology
Yep.
and FF&E category,
Right.
that's part of the soft cost for the project itself.
thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous.
Design update. So we provided the colored floor plans for your review. Since it's been a couple months, a lot has happened, a lot of development has occurred. In June, we met with the staff for a second round of programming meetings. And so what these plans reflect are, you might notice that there's a lot more detail in them if you compare them to the previous colored floor plans. And a lot of the programming meetings really centered around use of the spaces and what would be necessary to accommodate the educational program. So in this first floor plan, small details just to pick them out, we discussed the bathrooms in the center of the academic wing. So those have since been rotated, and we've provided an additional corridor. So now from one side of the academic wing, teachers are able to easily access the other side of the academic wing. We looked at areas within the building that are seen to be more public, how we can close those off for after hours use, with the addition of some doorways, and access and visibility have been largely in conversation. We're continuing development on some of those public areas, so accessing the gym, looking into the secondary entry along the front of the building. So all of the ingredients are there, and we're just continuing to refine sort of how those are coming together. We're also in the stage, so we know that the schematic design, the space summary has outlined a gross square footage for the building, and as is the case with all projects, we start with a plan, and we never get it right off the bat, so we're continuing to refine to make sure that we meet that space summary gross square footage.
Can you speak to the 800 square feet that the working group is talking about?
Sure, so
Just so the rest of the committee is up to date.
Sure, so building on that concept where we know that the building, so right now our design is over the square footage that's identified in the space summary. A component of that is that the request was to include bleachers in the gymnasium. The MSBA guidelines outline 6,000 square feet for the gymnasium, which pretty much gives you the basketball court and the 5-foot runoffs around it. So it doesn't really accommodate for bleachers. In the working group, it was determined that we don't necessarily want to compromise any space that would take bleachers away. And so to fit those into the gymnasium, that pushes the gym 800 square feet over what the MSBA outlines as the appropriate guideline for that. So as a design team, we'll be analyzing how we can maintain that size of the gymnasium closer to the 6,800 instead of the 6,000 without, stealing space from any other educational program. So that's just a challenge for us to really make sure that we're refining the square footage.
Also, just to speak to the bleachers and the number of seats available, currently, what was it, 200 seats?
It's about 200.
So 200, and even with the extra 800 square feet, we'd be going down to, what is it, 160, 180? I don't remember from this morning, I'm sorry.
Yeah, around 160.
Around 160. So even with the bleachers, we're going to have a little bit of a loss, and you would have, they're faced with trying to figure out how the traffic pattern can work and where people are going to stand or sit to try and be watching the game if they can't get a bleacher seat. So.
And I do think that if we stay at 6,800 and there's bleachers across, like we talked about in the working group, there's congestion points. When one game ends, there's a team there ready to go on. When the new game starts, the other team has to leave. So I do think if we are open to some of those open spaces like in the corner, maybe the multi-use room, or maybe the hallways, then internally the leagues could stage where those teams are coming in. Much like at the current school, they keep sometimes the teams out in the lobby or in the cafeteria area before their game comes in, then they can practice and things. So I think you're looking at better spacing, better ample parking, better egress and entrance. However, I don't think we can go under 6,800 square feet at all. Because one of the pieces that we're looking at here is that this gymnasium and the state of the current Whitman Middle School is so poor that all of our teams sort of left. If you were the advanced team, if you were the travel team, if you were the local AAU team that wanted to book your time in the gym, you had to leave, and those coaches in the leagues took a cost. If we bring them back to what it was about 10, 12 years ago, then you're looking at being a truly community school where, yes, there's some costs for custodial and things of that nature, but there's not the cost of just renting the gym because you are a town team. So I think it's important, and I think the town and the committees and the yes groups and everything need to know that, because we want what we had 10, 12 years ago, as opposed to what happened now, where our teams, so all of them, town and then travel, have to now travel to places like Hanover and everything and rent space. So we're not looking to do that. So I would like to keep it at least at the 6,800 with some of the modifications about the open space in the corner and the egress and all of those pieces, so that we can attract our own kids always to play as much as they can here.
Fred, I have a question. I was thinking about after the meeting this morning. With the 6,800, and we're going from 8,000 square feet is what the middle school is. And we talked before with a couple other things that we could fight for MSBA for the extra space, where we would be giving up space that we now have. Is that a possibility with this at all, or no? No, and because what everybody should know too, the 800 square feet is not reimbursable either if we put it onto the gym.
So here is our, thank you for asking that question, because here is our approach when Julie talks about trying not to affect other square footage. What that means is within the category of physical education, that is a specific number and square footage, net square footage. And so the goal here is to try to maintain the categorical net square footage, but shuffle the square footages with spaces within that category so that it doesn't change the overall. Because the MSBA has a hard and fast rule. If you're over, especially with gymnasiums and auditoriums, project advisories are out very specifically identifying anything above the square footage allotted in the recommendations or requirements from the MSBA will be 100% district dollars. So that we can, there's no negotiation, unfortunately. with
Yeah,
the-
and I think that's what
So-
everybody needed to hear.
But if we feel that it's an important part of the project,
No.
and I realize, and we talked a little bit, it was $700 and some odd per square foot is the estimated construction cost now, or the per square foot cost. So we're looking at just under 600,000 for that 800 square feet. I mean, it's a lot of money, but if you amortize that over how long the building's going to be open and the value that the community gets, you know,
We're trying to achieve the goal without incurring additional money for the town. That's the first layer, the first step. If that cannot be achieved, then the next layer would be, yes, in addition to
that'll be
800 square
over
feet,
this committee.
would be 100, it would have to come back to the committee with the specific parameters to say, this is what we're talking about as far as the solution. And if the 800 square feet categorically needs to increase, then that's a decision the committee will have to make.
Mr. Bates?
So if I could just jump in, one of the things that I've seen with the MSBA, I've actually gone through this exact process with auditoriums and gymnasiums. Just want a little clarification, oftentimes that 800 net square feet is then grossed up by the grossing factor. So if that grossing factor is say 1.5, the 800 square feet is times 1.5, so that gets to 1,200 square feet. And the ineligible square footage would actually be 1,200.
Correct. Yeah,
Not the
that's
800.
right. That's right. Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
That's right.
ouch. Yeah.
And that happens with it. You'll see that happens with any of the auditorium is a great example of a specific item that has come up. It is the gross square footage of the space.
And this isn't unusual to a district or a school project. We always run into this where districts want to be able to accommodate spectators in the gymnasium with a full basketball court or 2 basketball courts, and the district might decide to incur that additional cost. And we're just sort of at that point now with the project where we're fleshing out, the priorities and the square footage needs, and so just bringing that.
And if I'm not mistaken, you guys are staring at the footprint, trying to identify any places that you can shave off a little bit here and
We
there.
are, yeah, and we're excited to take it on, to be honest. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential to some of the things that we can do, and ultimately, we reach a point where we are hit with some of these challenges, and I always think it ends up coming out with a much better plan in the end anyway, so we're definitely looking forward to being able to sort of start to flesh that out and really get a tight building without any compromise.
So I want to make sure that the committee was aware of that, and we'll probably have to make a decision in the future, or we will hear what your solution is in the near future. Hopefully we'll hear the solution.
Hopefully we'll have. And then just additional kind of updates to the plan. We at one point had the video production room was sort of floating. We found a spot for it that we think could be really great. It's right at the top of the academic wing where you sort of meet that public time. Nice and central location for the school within that second floor, which goes back to how we were trying to place a lot of the shared spaces on that second floor level so that all 4 grade levels across all 3 floor levels could have equitable access to spaces along that public area. Similarly, we were able to bring the speech classrooms in a centralized location as well. Previously, they had been split on different floors. So really starting to provide some efficiency in the floor plan and some regularities, which will ultimately help in economy and structure and all of the other systems that will be added to the building. And then similarly on the 3rd floor, right at that knuckle to the center area of the building, we've integrated the teacher planning spaces for either of those academic neighborhoods. So those are staffed very neatly on top of the speech rooms. out to some of the intentions of the educational program. And I do want to draw your attention to this kind of bridge in between the bottom center of the building, so right in front of the media center, particularly on the second floor. We'll have a rendering later in the presentation, so you can envision when you see that rendering, this is where that's happening. And then similarly, in the academic wing, all the way up the rear closest to the wetlands, we'll have a rendering. The site has evolved a lot too, in addition to the interior of the building. So this is a more recent site plan rendering from the previous. It's a lot more detail in terms of the circulation, the fields, the outdoor amenities. You can see that the queuing from where we would enter on 4th Ave, there's a nice long bus loop there so that all 9 buses would have the ability to arrive or be here at the same time if they wanted to, all along a entry boulevard and plaza that will lead right into either of the 2 main entrances. Expanded parking for what's existing. We've also integrated into the plan now that natural walking path that would be a community resource. And so a lot of this development has really been charged from that cost estimating deadline. So really trying to integrate as much detail into the plans from a civil engineering and landscape engineering perspective as well to make sure that we're owning a lot of scope for this project. And of course, the outdoor learning areas, so that courtyard area will have a rendering later in the presentation where you can see what that might look like, and just really starting to open up into a campus. On the next slide, looking at it from an aerial view, now you can really start to see how open the campus starts to be when we don't have the existing nodes in there in the center, and especially from a vantage point of just safety and security and being able to see all the way into, all the way around the site and seeing particularly that entry boulevard of Fort Ave, something really special for the students and staff there. And then just pointing out too, like how much the site is surrounded by this beautiful treescape. So something that, the building now has that direct connection to the wetlands and the treescape. And then on the next slide, just acknowledging that this would be a slide from, I think, the previous presentation where we started to introduce some of the aspects of the site that we were pulling from to inform our exterior design. So looking at the characteristics of that tree line, how the trees are vertical in nature, how they have depth and texture, and then they start to play with some shadow, and starting to think about on our end what that could be in a building form and a material to enclose the building. And so on the next slide, we're listing out what we are considering for a material for the exterior, and so that would be a metal panel would predominantly be the material that we are looking to use and have specified in those cost estimating documents. A lot of advantages to the metal panel. It certainly, from a design standpoint, it has a lot of interesting features to it in the sense that it can come in the vertical orientation. They now make them with a texture to them. And color, of course, and shape and shadow are aspects that could, across a large expanse of the building, really start to be something of the feature. And from a durability standpoint, especially for the school, we do the metal panel has certainly stood up in terms of its durability. I mean, it's typically placed on roofs or wall systems. It's resistant to insects and moisture, and so something that would be easy to switch out and switch in if you needed to, and relatively and very durable. And of course, recyclable as well.
Quick question, I'm going to put Mr. Curran on the spot in a second. Cost effective, durability wise for a 50-year minimum lifespan, And any ideas of, is that the right thing, or is there any other suggestions that you might think of?
Honestly, I don't like the middle panels, but,
Okay,
I mean, these will be durable,
okay.
and they can be interchanged. There's not, I like masonry, so I don't know if they've explored that.
Difference in cost?
This is a lot cheaper.
Huh?
This is a lot cheaper.
Okay, so, I mean, we need to be cost effective, but,
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the elevation of the school, I don't like Silver Lake.
yeah,
I don't like the look of that school. The windows are too big. They almost look like you can see like a prism in them.
Mhm.
There's something about it I don't like. I'm concerned about that for these tall windows, but, yeah, I like masonry. Metal panels, if they can choose different shapes and look, and I think if we could see some samples, that might help.
I have to defer to someone that knows more about this stuff than I do.
Yeah, and there's certainly different, products out there that represent a metal panel. They definitely have a more architectural series available. It's not just corrugated metal as your only option. And then, given that we are also looking to meet the energy code requirements and the stretch code, that's going to beef up our wall system quite a bit,
Okay.
especially in terms of the insulation. We're looking to have, upwards of 5 or 6 inches of insulation within this exterior envelope. And so as a result, that needs to support whatever you're supporting for an exterior material is going to be hung off of, the substructure. And so that needs to be able to accommodate the width of the insulation that we need and also have the exterior enclosure that's watertight and airtight and everything. And so the metal panel, we were thinking would have, it has a lightweight quality to it. So
Okay.
that influences the substructure and all of the requirements that we will need to meet for that as well. And
Yeah.
similarly with the thin veneer stone that we're proposing as well, it is a natural stone. It's just not as, it's not a manufactured stone like a masonry unit that's much thicker and much heavier. And that would have the lightweight quality to it as well. And so just jumping ahead then to the exterior renderings and seeing what that might look like on a building. And so in this vantage point, this is when you can imagine approaching from the entry to the site and then sort of coming to the northeast of the building. And so this is your view of that approach. You can see that entry plaza that I mentioned during the site plan where you're sort of walking up to the main entry of the building.
All this
A large
insulation, that's
overhang
better than masonry.
coverage so that
Can't do that
students
same
are
thing with
arriving,
masonry.
there's some protection there. And you're seeing the auditorium space on the left, the 2-story media center in the middle of the building. On top of that, administrative suite, so administration having that overview of the campus, and then the student dining on the left. We've included a bonus image of, this would be, we don't have it in the packet, but just a night version of that rendering. For if there's an auditorium component, like an art show. As you move around the site, so this would be on the opposite corner, so looking more at as we approach from the southeast. And the advantage of how we sited the building is that when students are arriving in the morning, the sun will be right at that front face of the building, so it should give a very welcoming vibe to your entry into the school. And of course, as that moves around during the day, what we've integrated into the exterior are these vertical sun shading devices. So as the sun's moving around, some of those vertical components that you're seeing on the building would be able to mitigate some of that sun that's entering the building.
But they would be stationary, correct?
They would be stationary. Yeah. This view is from that southeast vantage point, but moving closer towards the building. So this is a really great shot of being able to see that entry plaza and the amount of space that students would have as they're getting off of the buses or arriving in the morning. And the cool feature of this corner being that it's double height kind of project lab space right on the corner there. You can imagine the view that students would have from inside that space. And then moving around to the opposite side of the building, this would be if you're on the west facade and essentially in the wetlands looking back towards that learning courtyard of the building. And the amount of available space that's protected for the students and staff to use, that plaza area that's really versatile. It opens up into the multi-purpose fitness space is the stone space on the left there. So we have a direct access from that space into this courtyard. And then we're also working with our landscape architects on the incorporation of a trellis or additional sort of shading device just to ensure that that's as usable as possible and comfortable. And then a shot where you're deeper into that courtyard, all the opportunities that could be available there. Maybe there's more tables for dining, maybe it's a lot more loose or flexible. We can also integrate garden beds, so there's just a lot of opportunities. And we would point out too the layout of the classrooms that you can see from within the courtyard. We're definitely paying a lot of attention to the economy and the efficiency of where we're locating openings and how we're choosing to analyze the system. And so using really regular widths and numbers and round numbers and repetition just to ensure that we're paying a lot of attention to economy and efficiency. And then just taking a step back and sort of explaining the origin of some of these design decisions. When we met with the teachers, something that we heard over and over again was this call for a connection back to nature. And so having the ability either to see outside or making it feel as much like the outside from outside in as possible was something that came up a lot in discussions with the teachers. Also for the exterior, just kind of considering what palette would be really complementary to that treescape that the building sits in front of. So even thinking of foliage or sort of pulling from the reds and browns that of the fall. And also just kind of giving a modern nod to maybe like the brick school. So obviously very classic look and continuing that into the site and the vantage point that we would get for that.
Any thought, and I don't even know exactly how much room there would be between the school and getting toward the tree line. I know here at the high school we have some areas where they have gardens, elevated gardens that students take care of. Would that be a consideration, something for the students? Yeah, and I'm sure it would attract some different wildlife as well at times. I'm sure you go down there, you'll see deer. You'll see 3 or 4 or 5 deer just hanging out, munching on the greens in the tree line.
Right, yeah, absolutely. We've integrated, standing planter beds or, full-scale garden beds within the outdoor learning areas in previous projects. We did hear from the staff that would be something that they would definitely be interested in using, particularly for their special education program. And so we'll be working with our landscape architects to ensure that scope sort of finds its way into the outdoor learning.
Thanks.
And similarly, in the design for the interior as well, this same kind of call to action for the staff looking to have as much reference to the outdoors as possible. And so this is our interior rendering. So if you recall looking at that kind of bridge between right in front of the media center, this would be the vantage point as you're approaching that. We think that the experience that you have from being able to see out in the courtyard, but also through the media center and kind of out to the front of the campus can be really powerful. And even just having that natural light and the warmth of the materials and natural materials and woods. And we can certainly, talk later on about color selections and everything, but really just looking to provide the students with a really warm and inviting
like the bridge and with the tables there. I think that's awesome.
Yes, yeah, and being right outside of the media center, I think that has a lot of opportunity and flexible use. And similarly, having these nook areas that, they don't take up any space, but they're really impactful and, usable, flexible collaboration space, just lining the walls with those as often as possible will provide the project with sort of the benefits. And so speaking of the nooks within the academic wing on the second rendering, this would be from the second floor vantage point at the kind of the wetlands and looking down the hallway. So we've integrated this kind of three-part nook that has writable surface in it, areas for an individual to work or for a group to work, with full tables up to it. And what's really great about the configuration of that nook is that it's able to be repeated on all three floors and within all four academic areas. So no academic neighborhood is missing out on any kind of collaborative area.
I like your saying on the wall.
Oh, yes, yes.
Don't go through life, grow through life. That's really
right,
cool.
yeah. And we would
I like
definitely, this is our first stab at it, but we would definitely want to
I like that.
personalize the building as much as the
Yeah,
district
I like that.
would like to participate
Yeah.
in. And of course, colors are subjective, but we're certainly, that's many conversations to come. But this is just, again, to emit whatever the vibe is of that interior space. And all the things that we're thinking about. And then for the last slide, just a summary of what materials we propose for those interior spaces. So bringing a lot of that natural wood in, whether that be a simulated wood with a wood look or an actual hardwood that always has a timeless appeal to it, as you can see in this library, but also the durability and the warmth that I think a lot of the staff and the students were looking for. And we also are proposing, in lieu of any kind of tile work along corridors, we've used a rigid vinyl cladding before. It's extremely durable, very lightweight, easy to replace. They can't graffiti on it or scratch it up as much. So that's something that we're considering as well. And then a lot of acoustic treatment, so whether that be in the form of felt that has a design aspect to it, or again, just the natural wood elements, that all has an acoustical quality to it that will ultimately make the school feel really, not super overstimulated and not so and then opportunities to pull in some color through the flooring as well. We're proposing a resilient sheet grid for the flooring as opposed to a VCT tile that you have to strip and wax every summer. This type of flooring wouldn't need any of that. And so again, as we get further into the project, definitely want to talk with facilities more about products and material selections, but something just to start off and give you guys a flavor of all the things we're thinking about for the inside of the building.
I like all the green.
Yeah, I know.
It's awesome.
Nice.
Warm.
Yeah. It's earthy.
So that is everything we have, other than just a reminder of the SB submission coming up. Again, looking to have approval for that on August 15th at the next meeting. And we'll continue to sort of supplement the building committee with components of that report and the drawings that just you have full confidence in approving it. And then the town can vote with that vote for.
Fantastic. I think it looks wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, we gotta make it happen. That's the next key.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. That's right.
Anybody have any questions? Julie, thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it. Mr. Stanbrook, you had included some invoices and in there for,
There are two of them. They're one for Colliers and one for AI3.
Yep.
AI3 is $40,840, and Collier's is $4,068.
Those are already encumbered in Mr. Bates's report earlier.
Yep.
And again, just to reemphasize, we are under budget and on track, so that's a wonderful thing. I would be looking for a motion to approve, and Mr. Bates has already signed off on these, by the way, to approve those invoices to both Colliers and
Can we
AI3.
do it together?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second, okay. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? It's unanimous. You guys can get paid. Next meeting date, I think that's sort of been determined already, August 15th. We'll do that 4:30 here. That's everything I have. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to bring forth to the committee? After that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second motion and a second. All in favor? Nobody wants to stay here all night.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
we're
well-
done.